What's going on, guys? It's FaZe Simp here, and today I'm going to be breaking down all of my Black Ops 6 settings. Without further ado, let's get straight into the video. We're going to just head down the list for, all these settings categories and kind of just break it down a little bit. But remember, this is all specifically for controller. These are all going to be a little bit more attuned to your controller, so just remember that, at least for the dead zones. But overall, these are some of the good settings. So the first thing you're really going to want to change is your stick sensitivity. I'm running 7.7 in this game. I tried 8.8. It was a little bit too fast. I think 6.6 is definitely too slow with how fast you slide. Yeah, honestly, I thought 7.7 is a perfect middle ground, so I'm rocking that this year. You don't really need to change anything underneath the sensitivities. You want to make sure you have vibration off if you have a controller with rumbles in. Trigger effect, this is if you have a PS5 controller, I think. If you want your haptics going crazy, which you definitely don't, so turn that off. Now for the important part, the dead zones. Your minimums, you're going to want less than 5. I have my left stick on 1. Left stick you can probably keep a little bit more loose than the right stick, so I would keep this on anywhere between 0 to 2, just because it's going to make you move a little bit more instant on when you click your stick, like on what you're doing, so I don't do that. And I also have my left stick max on 70. I think I had it on 70 last year or 75 last year towards the end. And in my opinion, I don't really know how to describe it, but this just makes you feel like you're just gliding around the map more. And especially as a sub player, that's something I was kind of looking for, so I throw it on 70. Again, with the minimums, you're going to want it on something underneath 5 for the most part, but you just want to go until you don't have stick drift, so you can do the test stick dead zone thing. And if you look at the zero, like the percentages, any direction I go with my stick, for the most part at least, the number never stays up. Like maybe a little bit right there just popped up, like my bottom left, but for the most part there's no drift. But let's say if I go to 0 rest stick right now, as you can see, whenever I let go of my stick, it stays going certain ways. And honestly, some people like that. They like having their right stick all the way down just for it to be as reactive as possible. I like having it all the way down until I don't have stick drift. So for me, that was 4 on this controller. And then last but not least, for the triggers, I would put these on 0, especially if you are a trigger player. I don't play flipped. I play with my triggers. And so I put these all the way down just so it can be reactive as possible. Nothing really have to change here. In here though, in aiming advanced settings, make sure you have your ADS transition timing on instant. I swear in other games it's always on instant, but in this game for some reason it's on gradual. I think on mouse and key it's supposed to be on gradual, but I don't know why for controller it is, I think. But you want to make sure you don't put that on instant. And then you want to put your response curve to dynamic. You always want to be on dynamic. It's been that way for a couple years. Now, there's a couple things you can really change in movement. But for the most part, I haven't done too much. Just trying to keep it as similar to competitive as I can. I know a lot of people are using sprint assist right now, which is basically ATS. If you are going to use sprint assist, make sure you have your sprint assist delay on 2. Or 3 or 4, like something down here. Just because I think if it's 0 or 1, it bugs out. And so I think people are putting it on 2 just to make it be as reactive as possible, your activation of the sprint assist. But yeah, you want to have all this on. Mantle assist I have off. I don't really like having like mantle help. I kind of like being able to jump shot and do stuff. You want to make sure you turn off corner slice. I tried it for a little bit, but I don't know. I feel like it kind of messes up with the way you're shooting and the recoil of your gun when you're corner slicing when you don't try to. And for that reason, I kind of turned it off. Movement behaviors, I'm on hybrid. Ever since EWC, I've been on hybrid. I honestly feel like I was trolling all last year not being on it. But for the most part, I didn't really change any of this. Movement advanced settings. Yeah, we can definitely change some stuff in here. I would put your sprint activation to single tap run if you don't want to use ATS. If you do use ATS, then don't even worry about this, to be honest. But besides that, oh yeah, and ground mantle too. Make sure you turn off ground mantle. This makes you just automate things when you're like trying to jump shot, like going into it, and it just makes you mantle and shit. So definitely turn that off. And now here in combat, I don't really think there's too much we really have to change. In terms of Warzone, I have my armored plate behavior on all. Makes it easier to just plate up. I mean, even in zombies now too, there's the plates. You don't really need this, but it's something I did. I'd change this to prioritize body shield, the finishing move behavior. So now when I hold my right stick, it puts him to a body shield instead of just going to a finishing move, which In my opinion, the body shield is a little bit better because you're kind of still playing. When you're in a finishing move, you can kind of like just die. So you can still go into it by double tapping your right stick, but I don't know. I'm a bigger fan of the body shield, so I threw that on. So starting off with display, you're going to want to be on full screen exclusive. You're going to want your refresh rate all the way up. Resolution, not like, you know, I have 4K, but 1920 by 1080 or 1440p is the way I would go. You want to have your NVIDIA on plus boost, just to make sure it's getting the lowest latency as possible. Frame rate, you know, this is really up to you and your hardware, but I'm on unlimited to I'm trying to boost it to as many frames as possible, in my opinion. It's not optimized well, in my opinion, right now. And I feel like the frames, I mean, on some maps are a little bit bad. But, you know, I just have unlimited just because. Everything else you don't really have to change in here. Now, a couple things in my quality are a little bit different than last year. Like I said, my frames were honestly, I was struggling streaming and playing and having more than 100 frames. I don't even know how. I don't know why. But I ended up putting on DLSS. I feel like this helped my frames by like 40 or 50 like frames, to be honest. But it's pretty simple. You know, I throw on DLSS, I throw on ultra performance, and then just 100 sharpness. It might make the game look a little bit different than you're used to, but I've gotten used to it in a super short time, and I'm sure you guys can too. And if you're getting better frames, I don't think you're gonna complain. Next up, you're gonna want your texture resolution on low. You know, I put everything on low instead of very low, just to kind of save it a little bit. This I put on high. I heard this saves you frames. Depth of field you're gonna want to have off. Everything else, you know, low, low, low. Bullet impacts on if you're, you know, you're that kind of guy who wants to see where your bullets are going. System effects low, shader quality low. And now this is a kind of a new setting as well. Not new, but it works differently. You can't turn off your on-demand texture streaming. And so what I've done is you just go minimal and put everything as low as you can, even the streaming quality, just so that you're not using your bandwidth. You know, you're not using anything your PC doesn't need to be using. Next up, shadow quality low, off, low, off, low. Like I'm speaking in code. But you guys get the gist of it, bro. So first up, we have FOV. And I upped it to 103. I honestly feel like in this game, it's not really hard to see people. And because of that, I just upped it. I tried 105, and in my opinion, that was a little bit too much. And so I kind of bumped it back a little bit middle ground of a 103. You want to be unaffected. You know, I think most people, if not everybody's unaffected nowadays. Weapon field of view, you want to be on wide, especially if you're a sub player. I like the wide one. I feel like you can see a little bit more of what you're doing. And then all the way down here, you want to just make sure these are basically all off. You know, your motion blurs, your camera movement, you want to have the least. You know, if you don't like the flashbang, I would put on inverted flashbang. It just flashes you with a screen of black instead of a screen of white. So now for audio settings, I've been playing on a bit of a higher master gain volume this game. It's not as loud as other years, I feel like. But the biggest thing with all these settings is your effects volume. You want to make sure this is on 100. Your music, you can definitely turn off. Dialogue, you can have on if you really want it, but you don't necessarily need it. I put it on like 30, 40 all a day, just so you hear what's going on. Audio mix, I use headphone bass boost. I know Treyarch mix is good as well, so one of those two I'd recommend, but I do use bass boost. Now for the new stuff. We got gameplay HUD options. And I think it's different in every mode, but for me, you know, this is just the multiplayer section. The preset I'm rocking with is magnified. I was kind of rocking standard, but I think I'm going to try magnified. I find it's hard to read red dots on the minimap a little bit right now, at least in private match. Yeah, if you want to have your minimap on square, you're going to want your compass type off. I don't really like having a compass on. I don't find any use to it. An important setting here is your crosshair. You either want to go center dot or static, in my opinion. When you just have it on, you kind of have like crosshair bobbing on, and it's not really, I don't know, I find it not as helpful. But with static, you can still turn on your crosshair dot, so that's what I did. I have it on larger. You want to turn the crosshair spread off so that you don't really have bloom, you don't really have that bobbing that I was talking about. The last setting I would really say, guys, is to turn off these clouded settings. I find whenever I load up my game, it resets some settings to a certain thing, and when you turn this off, I'm pretty sure it'll just save your settings from device to device. That's it, guys. That is all my settings. If I left anything out, make sure to leave it in the comments. I'll be sure to try and, you know, reply in the comment section. If you're new here, make sure you sub to the channel. Make sure you drop a like, and I will see you guys in the next video. Godspeed.